Welcome to Wednesday Walks Together. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrew in Newlands, Cape Town. Today is the last Wednesday walk for a while, and in fact there will not be any Friendship Fridays for a while either. On one level that's good news because I'm going on leave. Good news for me, perhaps not for you. Dawn and I were going to have 10 days away in Plet, hopefully, with the virus gaining some ascendancy. There are obviously some concerns about additional regulations being put in place and things, but I'm hoping we will manage to get there and really looking forward to putting my feet up for a while. Looking forward to that. Then I'm back for a few days. It's Christmas, and then I have some more leave that I need to take. So won't have an opportunity to do any of these talks for the next while. But do encourage you, there's a huge selection that goes back to the beginning of lockdown in March this year. On my channel, where you found this link, there are a whole lot of others. Please go back through them. There are some of our church services there as well. But lots of opportunity to perhaps go back and just review the journey that we've been on this year. It's been an amazing year, a really tough year, a really unusual year. Very aware that it's kind of turned everything that we considered normal on its head. And even as we attempt to pull back in some of the things we thought of as normal, we're discovering even those have to be lived a little differently. And so, yeah, take some time to review, and whether some of my previous talks will help you with that, or whether there's other resources you can use, do encourage you to do that. I was very struck today by a prayer that Rosemary Wallace put out as part of our parish weekly Wednesday parish prayers. And it's one from St Buno's Retreat Centre. And it just caught my attention because at a point where I'm certainly very aware that the virus is giving us a second push. Just aware in Cape Town, for instance, that about 4 to 6 weeks ago, we were sitting at 2,500 active cases. I see a few days ago we were sitting on 11,000 active cases, and that's a major and quite a scary jump. And so the levels of anxiety that come in when we hear that, and certainly in my experience, hold my life a little. And it's often where my faith is tested, in really trusting that God is present and part of all of this and leading us safely through it. Or at least giving us the resilience to cope with the various challenges that this pandemic and life has been throwing at us during 2020. And so the prayer for me was just a wonderful sense of hope in the middle of it all. And I'd like to read the prayer, pray the prayer to you. We pray as we begin this time of Advent that we may, even in this time of suffering and uncertainty, choose to open our hearts to hope, that we may awake to a light of wild love for our world, the beauty of life and each other, knowing that we all belong and are meant to be here. It's a very powerful prayer, that. I love that phrase, that we might awaken to the light of wild love for our world, the beauty of life, the beauty of each other. I've been powerfully reminded in the last couple of weeks of just how wonderful being present with another human being is, or with a group of human beings is. And that while technology and Zoom and everything else has been a wonderful gift to us, there's nothing that can actually beat just being physically in one another's presence. And I'm thankful that lockdown has eased to the point where we can do that, even though we need to continue to be careful with masks and sanitizing, excuse me, and everything else that goes with it. But it really is as we come to the end of this year, a year that really none of us pictured as we hit it in January, to end it with a thankfulness that God has walked with us, that we have found the resilience of the Spirit of God in our midst, and as this prayer prays, to really awaken to the hope that there is in life, and not just to the hope, but this wildness. And perhaps the virus has reminded us that life is not squared off and comfortable. Life is an adventure. Sometimes we don't like the nature of the adventure, perhaps, but it's nonetheless an adventure. And adventures are places where we learn about ourselves, we learn about each other, we learn about our world. And perhaps for me, the one aspect of this virus is that it's enabled me this year, as I look back, to have seen life from a very, very different perspective. And it broke me out of sort of the comfort of just what I considered normality to be. And I think I'm coming to the point of saying there is no such thing as normality. There is now, there is the present moment, there is the present context, and there is the way that I choose, you choose, we choose to interact with this present context. And this prayer, as we enter into Advent, suggests that despite suffering, despite uncertainty, despite hardship, despite all the pain that I think this year has been for many of us, that we make that choice to open our hearts to the hope and the goodness and the joy of life, the gift that God has given to each one of us. And to not allow the boundaries or enforced boundaries that the virus has imposed on us to limit our ability to embrace that hope, to embrace that life, to embrace the joy that goes with it. And to enter into 2021 with perhaps a more mature understanding of what life is about, of who we are, both as individuals, as perhaps more smaller family groupings, and as communities. And to trust that God will be with us, and that we have the resources of heaven at our fingertips, and pray for the courage to use those resources to our greater good and to God's greater glory.